Okay, so this is a story of an occurrence that happened to me and two other friends in the Red River Gorge. It was early November, and we were going down for the weekend, and I was going with a friend who has been going to the Red River Gorge for probably about 15 years. So he knows the land very well, and he likes to take kind of accountability for everything that goes on in the woods while we're there. So he kind of leads the way, tells us things we don't know, that kind of deal. And this trip, he wanted to go to a more isolated area than we had previously been going. This trail was called 9B, and at the time it was closed off to the public. The Red River Gorge people were basically creating a creek for endangered fish, and I'm not exactly sure how long it was shut down for, but quite some time, probably a year or two. So not a lot of people were back there, and the entire weekend we did not see anyone at all. So we parked our car. It's gated off, and it's a dirt / rock road, and it's about 5 miles long. We had to walk down that, and we walked into the woods about 3 miles. And Friday night, nothing happened. Everything was jolly and good. Saturday, during the day, we took a day hike and walked down the creek, probably about 4 to 5 miles. Nothing happened. Everything seemed normal. When we got back to camp, we fed our dogs. Each of us have our own dog that we brought, so there was 3 dogs and 3 people. One of the dogs was a Great Pyrenees, mature, about 125 pounds, very courageous, very loyal. And we ate dinner, fed the dogs, and basically right after nightfall fell, I got up to use the bathroom, took a pee, and basically right when I came back, we heard a screaming / howling sound, and it sounded like it was about a mile away, but it was extremely loud, like nothing I've ever heard before. And it wasn't like it was a prey animal that was screaming for help. This was one long, drawn-out bellow, and nothing in those woods has the lung capacity to scream as long as it did. And it probably lasted 40 to 50 seconds. And it sounded like a human screaming and a wolf howling, all wrapped up in one. And after about 10 seconds of it, we're like, wow, what is that? That's crazy, 30 seconds go by, and we start to freak out. I mean, especially Paul, the guy who'd been going out there for a long time. He could not explain it at all. And after about the 40 to 50 seconds, we were freaking out, and so were the dogs. All the dogs were at this point growling, acting nervous, but especially the big dog, Naku. Naku was acting like I've never seen him before. After that scream, whatever that creature was commanded the respect of the woods, and it got it, because everything fell silent for the rest of the night. And at this time, the moon was basically non-existent, so it was very dark. And we had about 12 to 13 hours of nightfall left. And we just didn't know what to do at that point. We debated leaving and hiking back, but the direction of the scream came from where our car was, and that was about 8 miles away. So after the scream and the initial frightness, 10 to 15 minutes went by, and we start to hear these crashing noises through the woods. And the way we were situated was there was 2 ridge lines above us, and we're sitting in the valley, and there's a creek going around us, and we're probably 20 yards from the creek. We got a big fire going because we know, most animals don't like to get near fire, so we tried to build our fire up. But whatever this was moving through the woods swiftly, quickly, and easily. And it was seemingly going from one ridgeline to the other in a second. So either there was multiple creatures, or this thing was not playing by the rules of our dimension. And at this point, Naku started to really get riled up, and the other dogs basically just laid down because they realized how serious this was. They didn't make a sound the rest of the night. And Naku, every time we would hear these noises, would point wherever it was, and his back legs started to tremble. So that's how we knew that it was very, very serious, because that dog does not get afraid like that. I've never seen him act like that. And that the crashing through the ridge lines and stuff, that probably lasted about 10 minutes, and then it subsided again, just like after the howl. It kind of came in intervals and waves of like toying with us and messing with us a little bit. After that happened, Naku was getting pretty ballsy, because I think he was getting fed up with what was going on. And we start to hear something in the creek, and we don't know if this is our mind playing tricks on us, or if it's just a normal creek making creek sounds, but it sounded like something was, dipping its legs into the creek and moving very slowly through it. Naku perks up, he's got his ears up and everything, and starts running over there, not full speed, but like tactically. And Paul starts to go over there with him, and at that point we hear this laughter that sounds like a witch's cackle, and it again sounds like it has undertones of human, but at the same time it has wolf-like or dog-like like growling to it. But it was the creepiest laughter that we've ever heard. And after that, Naku not only like barks, but I've never heard a dog scream before, but he like screams. Almost like what we heard before, but it was just wild. I almost threw up at 3 different points during this whole thing. And Naku at that point wants to find this thing and I guess attack it. And Paul wraps him up, puts a leash on him, and throws his headlamp on. And now this thing is again up on the ridge lines, surrounding us. And wherever Naku is pointing, where he hears these sounds, is where Paul's headlamp is going. And 3 different times he says that when he points his headlamp to wherever Naku was, he sees 2 red eye glits. And he said they looked like they were about a foot apart. And every time he shines his light, this thing is intelligently looking away and shying away. And then a second later, it's right behind us. And he does it again. Wherever Naku goes, he goes. He does it 3 times he sees this. And, he didn't even want to tell us this that night, because we didn't follow him down there towards the creek. We stayed put in camp with our feeble weapons, a couple of knives and a machete. And, Paul comes back shook up, and it's just like, I think it's gone. And after he sees it, nothing happens. It's just seemingly disappears. And, the woods never livened back up. We didn't hear crickets. We didn't hear anything whatsoever. And first light, we didn't sleep all night long. I mean, we definitely stayed up and hunkered down and just were listening for anything. But first light, we were out of there as fast as we could go, looking for something, some type of evidence that it left behind, maybe a mutilated deer or some type of animal, and there was nothing. And it's definitely the craziest scenario that I've ever been in my life, and I think it was the right place at the right time, and that's my story.